Your intuition has a voice, for sure it does. Well, haven't we all had the experience of thinking of somebody only a little while after that to all of a sudden they call you, hey, what are you up? I was thinking about you. So learning to develop and trust our intuitive intelligence is so much more important than ever because we are bombarded daily by a deluge of information from various sources. And our intuitive voice can speak to us in several ways. We have an inner voice. This is a still small voice, like a little nudge. I remember one time when I was 17, I had just broken up with my boyfriend, and I felt terrible about hurting him. And a few weeks later, one evening, I was in my room, and I just had this, I was overcome with this compelling, it was like a command to go to the garage where he worked. I couldn't not to use a double negative, I couldn't not obey it. So I went there, and I kind of somehow knew that I didn't want him to see me. So I parked in the lot next door, tiptoed over to where the window, and I looked in, and there he is in an embrace with another girl. And no, I wasn't jealous. I just felt this amazing feeling of relief wash over me. And I drove home in awe of the force that had brought me there. Sometimes you know something beyond a shadow of a doubt. And this happened to me once. It was a very unusual feeling. In my late 30s, I applied for a job closer to home. And after the interview, I knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that I had that job. Even after the director called me the next day and said he had offered it to somebody else. I hung up the phone. That's when phones hung up like this. And I said, no, I know I have that job. Well, sure enough, he called me the next day and offered it to me. And I said, oh, I knew that. And this was interesting because at this next job, job that I got, somebody came up to me one day and said, hey, do you know somebody that can give my daughter voice lessons? And a voice that literally, I swear it was not my own, came out of my mouth and said, sure, I can. And I went, yeah, I guess I can. And that was the beginning of my voice studio. Sometimes you hear a voice, and I did once when I was driving. I was going through an intersection. I had the green light, and the voice said, look right, and I looked right, and there was a guy barreling down the hill, getting ready to run the red light, and I had just enough time to get out of the way to avoid what I believe would have been a fatal crash. Sometimes you have a heart or a gut feeling, right? That sinking feeling in the pit of your stomach, it's trying to tell you something when you meet someone for the first time. Now that you know that you're sharing your heart field, you can generally get a good heart feeling or maybe not such a good heart feeling about them, right? Or when you come into a room, you can tell it has a good vibe. So after I opened my voice studio, I put an ad in the paper for an accompanist. And out of about maybe 15 applicants, I had this really nice heart feeling about this one guy, and he's sitting right there. He is now my husband. And I absolutely believe that I was guided to meet him through my intuition, listening to it. We are all connected through vibration, through this field of vibration that we live in, and the energy of our bodies and our souls is tuned into that, even when we are not listening actively. And that brings us to compassionate listening. So when was the last time you really remember listening to someone? Or for that matter, having someone really listen to you in return? Most people want to be listened to, but few know the art of listening with compassion. Tuning into the sounds in our environment can be a helpful first step in trying to get a deeper experience of listening. A few years ago, I attended a sound healing workshop, and the practitioner had us sitting outside, just listening to the ambient sounds in the neighborhood with our eyes closed. And when we met afterwards, we were all so surprised at all that we could hear when we shared it. It was amazing. I want to share something with you. It was really amazing for me. My godfather, William Siegel, who has since passed away many, many years ago. I just lost touch with him for a long time. I really just knew him as a child. For some reason, I was just looking on YouTube, and I just happened to notice he has an interview on YouTube. Ken Burns also did a documentary on him. He was a spiritual seeker. And I wanted to read you this quote. "The sound that fills the universe. It is the sound that is no sound. If you are still enough, one can hear the stillness as a material thing, and it is a wonderful, refreshing sound that carries its own special energy with it. This vibration Behind the noise, there is a sound, a note, an energy which can harmonize our whole being. Being still for a moment, I may feel myself in an entirely new way. And this new way of being can feed me just as good food can feed me. I cried when I read that for quite some time. That was such a gift for me.